So I'm going to go through the targets 10 through 11 homework assignment with you today. So remember, we are graphing an intercept form. So in order to graph an intercept form, we have to first find our x-intercepts by setting both of our factors equal to 0. So I'm going to set x plus 1 equal to 0 and x minus 5 equal to 0. So I will get my x-intercepts to be -1 and 5. So I'm actually going to go ahead and fill that in here for my x-intercepts. I'm going to write them as coordinate points, so -1, 0 and 5, 0. I will then plot those guys on my graph. And then to find the vertex, to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, I'm going to count into the middle between those two x-intercepts, and I will get +2. That is the x-coordinate of my vertex. To find the y-coordinate of my vertex, I'm then going to take that 2 I just found and plug it into my equation for x. So be careful with that negative in front. So negative and then 2 plus 1 in parentheses, 2 minus 5. And then you can plug that into your calculator. You will end up getting 9 for your y-coordinate of your vertex. So I'm going to go ahead and plot 2, 9 on my graph. So once I've found my vertex, I'm then going to use my pattern. So typically my pattern of graphing is 1, 3, 5, but because I have a negative a value here, I'm going to do -1 over 1, -3 over 1, -5 over 1. So I'm going to start at that vertex and go down 1 over 1, down 3 over 1, down 5 over 1 takes me to my vertex. I can actually go a little bit further. I can go down 7 over 1, and then I'll have a full graph there. And I'll go and connect my points. To find my y-intercept, I can just look on my graph and see if I can find it. Which if you look on this graph, we can see my y-intercept here. So right here where it crosses the y-axis, and that is at 0, 5. If I cannot find it from the graph, I will have to plug in 0 for x into my equation, and that will also give me the y-intercept. So for domain and range, our graph spans all x values, so our domain is all real numbers. And our range will go from the bottom all the way up to the y value of my vertex there, which is at 9. So 9 is the highest value I can have, and I go down from there. So it's going to be y is less than or equal to 9. Or if you write in interval notation, that would be -infinity to 9 with a bracket. For number 2, same process. We're going to start by setting the two x-intercepts equal to 0. So x plus 5 equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0. So I will get -5 and -4. I'm going to plot those. And then my vertex, my x value of my vertex is halfway in between those, which is -4.5. I'm then going to take -4.5 and I'm going to plug it into my equation for x. You can plug that into your calculator. Remember, if you'd rather, instead of putting 1/2 in your calculator, you can put 0.5 instead. So when I plug that all into my calculator, I end up with -0.125. So that's just right below 0. So I'm going to go halfway between -4 and 5 and then just go right below 0 there. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill in my x-intercepts. I forgot to do that earlier. So -5, 0 and -4, 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph with my pattern before I answer the rest of the questions. So this time you'll see that my graph is going up by 1/2. So my pattern will be up 1/2 or up 0.5 if you'd rather. over 1, up 1.5 over 1, 2.5, 3.5, and so on if we need to. All right, so remember, I'm at negative 0.125 for that y value of the vertex. So if I need to go up a half over 1, I'm going just right below halfway and then over 1. So it's going to end up being right about here and right about here. Okay, then from there, I'm going up 1.5. So here's 1 and then another half, okay, will put me just right below that next line. So, and then I'm going to go over 1. So it's just right below, kind of 2 tick marks up there. Then I'm going to go up 2.5. So here's 1, here's 2, and then I'm just right below halfway and over 1. Just do the best that you can with all these small decimals. As long as you're in the ballpark, you're doing a great job. And then I can go up 3.5 over 1. So here's 1, 2, 3.5 over 1. And there's my graph. Okay, so again, just do your best with those decimals and you should be fine. For my y-intercept, you'll notice that on my graph here, I can't find the y-intercept. I can't see it, so I'm actually going to have to find it by plugging in 0 for x into my equation. So I will have 0.5 times 0 plus 5 times 0 plus 4. And for my y-intercept, I end up at 0.10. So it does come out to be a nice number. You'll notice on my domain, again, it's going to span all numbers. So my domain is all real numbers for x. For my range, again, I'm looking at the y value of my vertex. So the y value of that vertex was negative 1.125, and then it goes up forever. So its y is greater than or equal to negative 0.125. Or if you write in interval notation, it would be bracket negative 0.125 to infinity. All right, for number 3, same thing again. We're going to go through the same steps. So I'll set both my factors equal to 0 and solve. I will plot them both. And I will write them both on my x-intercept line. And to find my vertex, I will count halfway between those two x-intercepts. And if I count in, I will get negative 1. So my x-coordinate of my vertex is negative 1. To find the y-coordinate of the vertex, I will then take that and plug it in for x. And that will give me negative 4. So my vertex is at negative 1, negative 4. For my pattern, you'll notice my a value here is just 1. So I'm going to use my traditional pattern, 1 over 1, 3 over 1, 5 over 1. So starting from my vertex, up 1 over 1, up 3 over 1 takes me to my intercepts, and then up 5 over 1. For my y-intercept, you'll see I can find it there on the graph. It is at 0, negative 3. My domain is all real numbers again. For my range, I'm going to go to the y value of my vertex, which is negative 4, and it goes up from there. So its y is greater than or equal to negative 4. If you do it in interval notation, it will be negative 4 with a bracket to infinity. Last one. All right, so first things first, we're going to set those x-intercepts equal to, or those factors equal to 0 so we can find the x-intercepts. So I will get 6 and -2. So I will plot those guys. I will write them on my intercept line. And then I will count my x-intercepts into the middle, halfway between them, to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, which is 2. I will then take that value and plug it into my equation for x. So again, I'm going to use 0.5 instead, so it's easier to plug into my calculator. And when I do that, I get a y value of -8. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that. Because my a value here is 1/2, my pattern is going to be 0.5 over 1, 1.5 over 1, 2.5 over 1, 3.5 over 1, and so on if I need to. So from my vertex, I will go up 1/2 over 1, then 1.5. So here's 1/2, and then another 1 will take me to here. Then 2.5. And 3.5 will take me to my vertex. I'm actually going to keep going just so I can fill up my whole graph. So I'm going to go up 4.5 over 1 as well. And I will stop there. And this gives me a fuller picture of my graph. So our y-intercept, you'll see we do find it on our graph here. Right there, where the graph crosses the y-axis, that's at 0, -6. My domain, once again, is all real numbers. And my range, if I look at the y-coordinate of my vertex, it is -8, and then it's everything above -8. So y is greater than or equal to -8, or bracket -8 to infinity.